Welcome back to another episode of Jeepin' with Cool Guy. On today's episode of Jeepin' with Cool Guy, we're going to replace the gasket for the vent nozzles on the top of the original polyurethane 20-gallon gas tank. As far as I know, these are only available in the latter years of the CJs. One real cool aspect about these gas tanks, AMC actually stamped a lot of the details into this stuff. It tells you what the part number is, month, and the year. This one was made in 1983. And then the shift and the day was 2, and the day was 282. Wow, that's kind of crazy. Sourced ID, job number ID, and then a couple other things. But anyways, I thought those were some really neat details. Okay, so to get this rubber gasket out without breaking the tank, without breaking this valve, without tearing everything up, you need some kind of a pry piece. I'm using a body molding pry, and what you want to do is you want to wedge it towards the flat part of that nozzle. So just kind of get underneath it and then wedge it up. You want to try and get underneath that lip. This is the gap that the plastic goes into. So you just want to try and get this lower lip just to come up over the top of the poly so that you can wedge the thing around and work its way out. It also doesn't hurt to squirt a little bit of WD-40 or some kind of lubricant that works okay with rubber around the edge, just to make it a little bit easier and smoother to get up and out. Now that I've got the rubber inner lip up over the edge of the poly, and just work it around nice and easy. Kind of wedge it out. You do not want to use anything metal for this because 3 things. 1, you don't want to gouge the tank. 2, you don't want to tear up the gasket any more than you're going to. It'll just be harder to get out. And 3, you definitely don't want to damage this valve. And there we go. Out it comes. The gasket fits around this groove on the top part inside of this inner lip of the valve. So you're gonna have to pry this out. Just get it started. It's not that hard to do. Again, just be very careful with it because this is plastic and it's 40 years old or 35 years old. Grab a towel, clean up the edge. Whatever debris is in there, dirt, whatever that may be, try and make sure that you do not get it down into the tank because, then it winds up in your fuel filter and it winds up being a pain in the ass. Visually inspect your valve just to make sure everything's good. You want to look for cracks or anything else. If I can find these out online, I will put a link in the description for both these and for this. And then just take the gasket and as gently as you can, slide it back up over and into that groove on the valve. Now take some light grease. I'm just using some of this Super Lube stuff just because it's not really heavily petroleum based or oil based, because you definitely don't want to put anything that's really heavily oil based or petroleum based on rubber. And this helps keep the rubber fairly pliable. And this is going to serve the same purpose as the WD-40 in getting this inner lip of the gasket into the top edge of the tank. Now, reinstalling this thing can be about as frustrating as getting it out. You have to be careful here. Again, grab your plastic pry tool and you want to start the gasket in by pulling it towards you, angling it up, and trying to get that inner lip just down over the edge of the poly. Use the pry stick to kind of push that down and over. But the way that I've been doing it is, once I get it started, I try and just rotate it around and slowly push that edge down into it as I rotate it. Almost kind of threading it a little bit. But to be honest with you, the hardest part is just getting it started. So I'm just going to push, rotate, try and get that inner lip around that inner edge of the tank. And when it won't just easily fall in, then I'm just going to use my plastic pry tool to press it in. And of course the last little edge is always the hardest part because it's all bunched up. So once you get it down in there, then you can kind of press it down just from the inner edge of the valve. But make sure that you've got it all seated and the gasket is flat all the way around the edge. And voila, we have replaced the gaskets around the valves, both of the valves on our 20-gallon OEM gas tank. Why did we do this? Well, when I had installed this, and this is the only modification that I'm actually making on my 79 CJ, because these things were only available in the late 80s. Obviously, I'm going to say it was from 82 to 86 on the CJ7s, just because I had one, and I wanted to be able to put in the larger gas tank. So that's the only modification to this actual model year. Let's get back to the point though. The reason why I replaced both of these gaskets is when I had installed this and I had taken out the hose connections between all of these things, I noticed that they would move really easily, like there was a gap in there. You don't want a gap in a pressurized system, whether it's low pressure or high pressure. So I figured it was probably a good idea to replace these rubber gaskets. And being 40 years old, rubber is not going to hold up that long. So I wanted to make sure that this was in good shape, because everything else on the tank was in really good shape. So why not just update the things that we could? Anyways, another Jeeping with Cool Guy video. Long live the CJ7.